remember being 12, 13 years old watching Geraldo Rivera on his investigative reports on everything from the vault of Al Capone or whatever it was to drug kingpins being arrested. He is literally a TV journalistic legend, and I also got arrested once protesting Geraldo. I wasn't really protesting Geraldo. I was protesting mainstream media. But you can't really call him mainstream media, but he's somebody that works in the mainstream media. He is a real original, and he joins us for just this segment today. I wanted to get him on about Syria, but a lot of other things have happened. The government shutdown, Obamacare, everything that's happening, nuclear Iran. Are these talks real where they say they want to work with the West? John Kerry seems to think so. But Geraldo, again, thank you for joining us. People can follow you on your Twitter at Geraldo Rivera. But first off, what about the state of the country and the world? Is my instinct wrong that people are more awake and getting more upset now than they have in our lifetimes?
Well, first of all, Alex, it's a pleasure being on, and you say I'm an original. So are you. It takes one to know one, so I'm pleased to be on your program today. Now, in terms of the state of the world, I think that in terms of domestic policy and Obamacare, ever since 2010, I think you really have a very motivated electorate. A lot of people are tuning in a way they haven't, paying attention and getting into the detail of government in a way they haven't in a long time, and I applaud that. On the big stage, the stuff with Iran and the nukes and Syria and the poison gas, once in a while people pay attention, but I think generally speaking, the feeling around most Americans, and I think this is what President Obama ran into, the roadblock he ran into when he wanted to bomb Syria. A lot of Americans just say, hey, screw it, we've had over a decade of involvement in all these foreign adventures. We've bled, expended trillions of dollars, lost too many lives. Let them sort it out themselves, Al.
Shifting gears into just Obama in general, he promised so much and then has so under-delivered, even to his constituents. I think he's going to go down as one of the most hated presidents ever. And I'm sad because I really wanted race relations, you name it, to get better under Obama. And it seems like, well, the polls show it's gotten worse. What's your take on that?
Well, Alex, as a former hard left, long-haired street lawyer, radical protester against the war and pro-civil rights in the 60s, I have to say that the election of the first black president in our history was like a dream come true. It was like the fulfillment of something I had worked for and never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. So when he got elected, I can remember how emotional I was and how positive it was. But when you get down to it, you've got to govern. And I'm not, part of it, I have no doubt, is the fact that the hard right in the Republican Party doesn't want him to succeed. I think that's part of it. But I think a lot of it is, when I think back to the days of, Lyndon Johnson or even Bill Clinton, where you had, certainly Reagan, where you had people that were, they had their idealism, they had their ideology, they had their ideas, but they were pragmatic enough to make things work. And I think that President Obama has been a terrible manager. And he's been, in terms of a divided government, he hasn't in any way reached out in a way he should. I think that a lot of what John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, and other Republicans are doing now is really appalling. But I think Boehner is right, the Speaker is right, when he says the President will negotiate with the Iranians, but he won't negotiate with the Republicans. I lament that fact, and I can't disagree that as of right now, if history was going to freeze right now, he would be regarded at best as a mediocre president now.
Now, Geraldo, I didn't get you on to talk about all the amazing things you've done, but it is interesting. And since I've got you here, before we get back into politics, out of the 170 awards for journalism, including prestigious Peabody Award, Emmys, national and local, and so many others. People forget you haven't just done the big sensational stories. You've broken so many big investigative journalistic reports and been threatened, been attacked. Out of everything you've done, what are you most proud of?
There's no doubt about it. I don't even hesitate. There have been so many stories, thousands and thousands of stories. But the stories I did about the institutionalized, we used to call them mentally retarded, now they call them developmentally disabled. There's no doubt about it. Helping to close America's institutions for the retarded is definitely what I wish they would put on my tombstone instead of opening Al Capone's vaults or sleeping with this one or that one. I'd love them to remember that we helped change the way the developmentally disabled are cared for in this country, Al.
Yeah, that's why I brought that up, because I just kind of spurted out the Al Capone vault, and I bet you're sick of hearing about that. It's like I'm sick of hearing I'm the guy with the bullhorn. That's like, oh, you're the guy with the bullhorn. And it's like, no, I've done a couple other things other than a bullhorn. You know, so much is going on in the world right now. My issue with Obamacare is it was written by the insurance companies. Their stock has doubled in many cases, and it's going to be selectively basically enforced. A lot of people are exempt from it. I mean, I've got a big problem with Obamacare. Why do you think the American people have turned against it?
Because it's so complicated, because you're right about the insurance companies leading the way. I know that, I got half a dozen people work for me in various, in this thing on the boat in the backyard, my secretary, etc. And my health insurance for all those people has more than doubled in the last 2 years. And, I can't think that it's not related to Obamacare, and it's been so badly explained. I'm a socialist enough that I want everybody to have access to health care, poor or rich. That old line, the rich should live and the poor should die. I'm not for that. But I think when you turn something over to one industry as opposed to another industry, they're going to do what's self-serving. The bill seems, incredibly complex, and why are they getting exemptions, and why is Congress not participating in the same kind of system as everybody else is? I really think that it's a big bollocks. But on the other hand, I don't like this government shutdown either. I think that it's not going to accomplish anything. They've made the point to shut down the government costs a couple of $100 million every day, just like burning the money in your backyard. I appreciate drama, but not when it costs taxpayers money. And it just seems that Congress is, we talked about the president being mediocre. If Barack Obama's mediocre, the Congress is piss poor, if you get my drift.
Geraldo, I want to get into Iran and geopolitically where you think, because you're a smart guy, you've been in the Middle East, all over the place, you've been in Afghanistan, you've probably seen more combat as a journalism than even somebody like Oliver North, because every time there's a war going on, I turn it on and you're on television. I saw a report about 3-4 years ago where you were in Afghanistan with the Marines, where they admit that they're guarding the opium and helping basically produce it. The argument is, well, this way Al-Qaeda won't get it. What do you make of being somebody that, covered the drug war from the time it began under Reagan to now that it's on record that our own troops are guarding the opium? Well,
I think the big picture, I've been covering the drug war since Nixon, since 1970. We've spent well over $1 trillion. The drug war is an absolute failure, an absolute abject failure. And to throw people in jail, 20 years for that. There are women in jail in upstate Bedford, New York. They've been in jail for 20 years because they carried an ounce of coke for their boyfriends and got busted because they got set up. And I think it's preposterous. I think that I'm very much of a libertarian when it comes to that. People have to sort that stuff out for themselves. I think it's just absolutely dreadful the way we have, and what you're speaking about in the Marines. That's absolutely, literally true. Our encampments were in the poppy fields. The harvesting of the crop happened right in front of us. And there I was with the brave Marines at that time in Helmand Province. They're getting shot at, and they are effectively guarding the poppy fields. I think it's really it's a disaster. It's awful. In the bigger picture, we're exhausted after Afghanistan. We paid back the people who got us, and I'm all for revenge. I think that was a good idea. Hanging in there now, 13 years, 14 years, I mean, my goodness, when does that end? Iraq was an absolute, utter zero. It was for nothing. I debate with Eric Bolling on Fox all the time. Eric was accusing the Iranians of 9/11. The Iranians weren't in 9/11. The Iraqis weren't in 9/11. That was the Saudis, our dear friends, that were, the 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis. I just think that you got to really be careful before you commit U.S. blood and treasure to these foreign affairs. I'm sick of being in combat. 12 times in Iraq, 12 times in Afghanistan, Somalia, every place in between. I'm all for You get the people that get us. You try to preserve world order. You guard the ships in the Horn of Africa. You keep commerce flowing. But to send a land army into any of these countries now, that's why I opposed President Obama when he wanted to bomb Syria because of the poison gas. You know, it's just not our job. What about the UN? I mean, does it stand for anything? Can it do anything? I think the answer is obvious, Alex.
We've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left with you, Geraldo. I really appreciate you spending time joining us. You've got your syndicated radio show. You're doing the news show there on Fox. You've got so much, other things that are going on. Let's talk about you and your life right now, what you're mainly focused on politically, but also personally, because folks obviously want to know a little bit about you and what you're doing currently. And then I want to finish up with geopolitically. How do you think this is going to end with Iran?
All right. In terms of me, I do the Fox News stuff. I've kind of been an outlier, an oddball at Fox now going on 13 years. I went to Fox after the 9/11 attacks because I wanted to cover the war, and I think you're right. I think I've been in more combat situations than certainly any celebrity journalist. It's been something I've been drawn to. I have a lot of pictures on my wall of me and GIs that have been killed since they took the picture with me. Afghanistan, Iraq, it's awful. I've watched them, their families go through all the stress, and now they're coming home, and I'm very, very much aware of and covering stories about how they have all the problems, the baggage from the war, suicide, and so forth. So I think we have to totally be involved with that. Yeah, I'm a father of 5. I'm thinking about, where I go from here in life. I've done so much. I want to stick it out. I've had a 43-year career. It's everybody's got a Geraldo story. You have one. Everyone's got a story like that. In your case, it was being arrested on 48th Street and 6th Avenue. Perhaps more colorful than most, but there's been a lot of anecdotes, a lot of people whose lives I've touched one way or the other along the way. And, it's sometimes I can be hardcore. I scored the exclusive with the Iranian foreign minister Friday night. On the other hand, the month before that, I took that nude selfie of myself. So I'm still got my freaky side, and I hope I always do. I want to be unpredictable. I'm a Republican, but I'm a pragmatist, and a lot of what the Democrats say, I prefer what the Republicans say sometimes. So, I think that the one thing, Alex, is after all this time having the advantage of that kind of one-name status, I get kind of a lot of slack that a lot of other people. You, for instance, you get a lot more heat when you take a controversial position than I do these days, it seems.
Well, I do, and you're about to leave us, and I want to finish up with Iran, and your phone's breaking up just a bit there. But Geraldo Rivera joins us, legendary journalist, celebrity journalist, you name it. But unlike many celebrity journalists, there's a lot of hard reporting over the years. Even if you love him or hate him, you've got to admire the courage that he's had over the years. And he also got pretty mad. We're showing some video of that now. Whenever I was bullhorning his live broadcast, he gave me the middle finger. That's pretty funny. You don't see Geraldo. You don't see.
I didn't give you the clenched fist, though. That's what I really wanted to do.
Oh, exactly. So what did you think when we showed up bullhorning you?
Well, first of all, it took me a while to figure out what the issue was. And then, then it was, 9/11 was an inside job, and I got that. And the anger, though, the level of anger was extraordinary. I mean, it was just, I was pissed off at you. You guys were pissed off at me. And there we were. We didn't, if I had thought it through in retrospect, what I should have done is just invite one of you to come and tell me, you particularly, tell me what the beef was, because once the substance of the issue became more known, it became a point where there's really some situations where you got to talk about the facts and circumstances.
Sure, you even later had me on your show to put out why I thought it was an inside job. When I say inside job, I mean they knew bare minimum. Even Bo Dietl agrees with that. You had on the show that day, and that they use it to take our liberties and to attack Iraq. And now look at Seymour Hersh coming out, the multi-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, saying the bin Laden raid basically was fake, didn't happen. I've talked to the Navy SEALs who were involved. They say it was a look-alike they really killed. Whether that's correct or not, no one buys what this system's saying anymore. And I saw the press report on it a few weeks ago. They said when Geraldo Rivera and Alex Jones agree that the Syrians, thing is staged and that Al-Qaeda did it with the gas, Obama's in trouble. And so in closing, what do you think about funding and arming Al-Qaeda And I get toppling Assad because he's buddies with Iran, but he's not starting wars, and he's not Iran. So segue out of the gas and who was really behind that into Iran, Geraldo Rivera.
All right, let me say one thing first on the other big picture. Isn't it interesting that Alex Jones is right about the NSA and the Patriot Act and all those things that you were criticized for being paranoid and crazy about? And it turns out that the NSA is in our lunch, and they're using it to catch their girlfriends cheating or bosses. I think that you give yourself a pat on the back on that big issue. In terms of Syria and poison gas, I think that the best thing about it, I mean, if there's a best thing about something so horrible, is that you got the Russians engaged and you got the Iranians engaged in a way that neither of those two enemy, quote-unquote, powers have been engaged with the United States and with the West. And I think that's a good thing. And maybe, just maybe, we're joking about the United Nations and how little, it does, or nothing it does. And, maybe you have some kind of dialogue going on where you can actually see chemical weapons being collected and being destroyed. I think that would be a good thing for the world, Alex.
I agree with you. In closing, I hope that whenever you're breaking some big news, every once in a while we get you to pop in, and I enjoyed being on your show. I guess that was on Saturday a few weeks ago. And, of course, my audience follows Fox News. Most of them are libertarian or conservative, but a lot of them are classical liberals. But, again, plug your New York radio show because that's also syndicated. I know people listen to it over the web.
ABC Radio, thank you very much, Alex. And, yeah, let's don't be a stranger. We'll swap appearances. I appreciate it.
Let me just ask you this. At Geraldo Rivera is the place to follow you on Twitter. I'm at Real Alex Jones. Do you think, just your gut, because I think the Iranians are starting to get a little bit scared. They've put a guy that's not as hardline in. I hope for peace. I hope that Israel can work it out with them. But Netanyahu thinks it's fake. What does your gut tell you about Iran? Will we end up attacking them?
No. Let me tell you, 30 seconds. In 1988, my talk show was taken to air in the Soviet Union. Monday through Friday, the Geraldo Show aired in the old Soviet Union. I swear to God, shows like mine helped bring down the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Why? Because the people in Russia looked at the washing machine commercials and the car commercials and the color TV commercials, and they wanted that stuff. The people of Iran want that stuff. These economic sanctions have destroyed the economy in Iran. If you look at the Persian people in Southern California, they own half of L.A. already. They are enterprising. They're very Western-oriented. If the mullahs and the ayatollahs don't give them that kind of freedom, then they're going to, then the Iranian people will take care of them. I want to encourage that. I want to encourage, Iran opening up, and, that's the best way to keep Israel safe, I think, Alex.
By the way, that is one of your big accomplishments. I've actually seen it quoted in sociology text online at some of the prestigious universities that actually they do cite Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Levi's, and shows like Geraldo Rivera. I forgot. You were one of the first shows to beam into there.
No, I was the first show. I was the first talk show from the United States on the air in the Soviet Union.
Man, talk about changing the world. Geraldo Rivera, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, Alex. Good talking to you.
All right, folks. There goes.
Bye-bye.
There goes Geraldo. That was a great live interview there with him. Glad to go on his show and glad to get him on our broadcast. What a character. I tell you, people that you watched as a teenager and then they're on your show. I mean, it's one thing to go on his show, but then he's on my show. I'm not even really starstruck. It's more just interesting because I could care less if he was some sitcom guy from the 80s that I didn't watch. It's just a fact that you're growing up and you never think you're going to know Jesse Ventura. Or you're growing up, you never think you're going to know Charlie Sheen. Or you're going to know Geraldo Rivera. And we found the low-res video online. It's actually in my film, Truth Rising. That is one of my best films because it's cinema verite. It's not voiceovers. It's not graphics. It's not articles. It's real people. I think Truth Rising, it's probably our least-selling film ever. That's really unfortunate. I mean, it's free online, too. It's only been seen like a couple million times. That's, people go, well, a couple of million, that's a lot. That's nothing, folks, compared to the other films. And I think it's my best film. It's cinema verite, and it's about activism and waking up. You can see it in high def. Geraldo getting really mad. He almost climbed down off the thing because it was an hour-long show, and it was live. And I just ruined the whole thing with 9/11's an inside job over it. And, but... You know, he's an activist who was a lawyer in all these famous standoffs and stuff. So I think that's why he kind of liked it afterwards. A few months after I was on, they go, hey, he wants you on. You know, now he knows who you are, like he knew who you were, and he kind of likes what you're doing. Because the truth is, I don't want to get Geraldo in trouble. Behind the scenes, he knows exactly what's going on. He's a smart cat. He didn't say, don't tell anybody it's off record. I've just talked to him and a few of his people, you know, short here and there behind the scenes, during breaks on live TV or other things, and he knows a lot. He knows a lot. But he knows how to get it on Fox News that the Marines are growing opium. He's like, wonderful, you're here growing opium. And they just admit it all. And then he doesn't get in trouble. It just goes out on air. But we got Geraldo Rivera to talk about that. Folks, they load it on the C-130s. It comes into the air bases. And then when the cops catch your kids with it, they put them in the rape room, in the prison. Okay, the government is pure evil. We'll be right back. Are we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent, privately and publicly, looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind, the movie, at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free citizen rulebook.